Hello again, this is Robert Radford, 50 Years of Chess. A lovely hot day today, bit better than last time I believe when I told you it was windy and rainy. I hope everyone's happy and enjoying your chess, and enjoying your holidays and everything else. Only, this is a good game I'm going to show you now. It was played with an old friend of mine, DaveTipper. Dave is a prominent figure in the Bristol chess. Been match secretary for many years, very much involved with Downend Chess Club for all I can remember. I don't remember him playing for anyone else. Good player, Dave. I played him many times. First time I ever played him, the game was actually a lost for me. I played a King's Gambit and he knew it better than me. So after that, I never played King's Gambit with him anymore. So he did manage a draw on another occasion, but apart from that, I think I won every time he played. This was the last time I believe we played, which was on the 16th of January 2018. Horfield, who I was playing for at the time, versus Downend. And I was white. My rating at that time was about 1878 and Dave was around 1833. But we were still using the old ECF grade at the time, and I was 157 and he was 151. So we're going to go to the game. I'll show you what happened. I was white and I opened with E4. He played E5, Knight F3, Knight C6 and C3. This is known as a Ponziani opening. D5, so that's the best reply to the Ponziani, without doubt. So Dave knew a bit about his openings. He always did know his openings quite well. Queen A5. Bishop D7. Pawn takes pawn. Knight D4. Queen back to D1. Knight takes F3. Queen takes F3. Knight F6. H3. I didn't want him playing bishop to G4 and embarrassing my queen a bit. So he pushed the pawn on to E4. Queen E3. He could have took the pawn on D5 and then after queen takes pawn he would have to drop the knight back to E7, which I think he didn't want to go doing all that sort of stuff at that time. He thought he'd rather get his bishop out and develop. Quite wise, nothing wrong with that. So he played bishop D6 and Dave still didn't take the pawn, though I think he should have. So he castled and then I played C4. He played B5. So I pushed the pawn on to hit the bishop and then he took the pawn. So I got to be careful because I cannot take that pawn on E4 because of rook E8 check would win my queen. So I played queen B3. I'm attacking two pieces at once here, but he found a way out of it by playing bishop F4. So if I take the knight, it takes the bishop, and it's a bit annoying. So I took the bishop. He took the bishop back with the knight on F4, and then I brought my knight out because I'm behind on development here. Bishop E6, attacking my queen. So I pushed the pawn on to E4. So knight takes D5. Knight takes E4. Bishop attacks the E4 knight, so by going bishop F5, knight back to G3. I'm still behind on development, not too happy with my game so far. I could have played better. He checks me on E8 and I block the check with the bishop on E2. He's gone back bishop to G6. Castle. C5, Bishop f3. Queen g5. Rook on a to d1. Rook on a d8. Bishop takes knight. Rook takes knight on d5. Rook takes rook. Queen takes rook. Queen takes queen. Pawn takes queen. So we had a huge swap off there. But I worked it out that I can win a pawn here. So I played rook to d1. He played rook d8. And what I did was push my c pawn to c6. King across to f8, c7, rook c8. And then I took the d pawn. He took the c pawn, then I took the b pawn. So now I'm a pawn up. He played a6, and then I brought my rook across to e5. This is to stop him from coming out with his king at this stage of the game. And he played rook to c2, attacking the pawns. And the only way really I could save a pawn here is I could have gone to a5, then after rook takes pawn. But he does have a white squared bishop, which could probably cover that a8 square, and I'll never get that pawn in. So I played rook e2, rook c1 check, king h2, h5. So f3, so I can go knight e4. Rook back to c5, knight to e4, bishop takes knight, rook takes knight, rook b5. So this is interesting now as we get to this stage. I'm still stopping his king from coming out and my rook where it is, but I've got to do something here. So I played b4 and he played a5. Again, if I play pawn takes pawn, you can go rook takes pawn, and I have to go back the rook to e2. I'm still stopping his king from coming out though. That would have been good for me, I think. But I decided to play a3. We exchanged pawn for rook here. No, he didn't do it. So we played rook a5. So I played a4. He played g6. Now I'm getting my king out, and he does the same. King g3, king e7, king f4, rook c5. He wants to get around the back of my pawns, I think. h4, rook c2, and I immediately played g4, looking for a pawn swap, which I got. I still got that passed pawn on a4. He's gone after my h pawn with rook h2, and I'm protected it with the king. If he does play f6, I got king takes g6, and then after rook takes pawn, I can still keep it protected with my rook. I move my pawn on a5, pawn a5, and then get my rook behind that pawn, and I think I'm winning. But he played rook to f7, a5. That's a worry for him as he races across to try and stop it with rook a7, rook b5, rook a4, and then I checked him. And if he comes out, I think that's a mistake, because I can just let that pawn go with a check after I've taken the f pawn, and then I would win the g pawn as well. So he went back, and I played rook a7. This helps me to advance that pawn to a6 if I want to. So he's gone king f8, and here's a possibility of getting the f pawn off him with king f6. So he checked me, and I went back to g5. So he's gone back again to a4 to stop me. Should I come off of that file, he would take the pawn. So I played h5, g takes h, rook a8. He wants to check me a bit now if he can. So I pushed the pawn. He played king g8. Right, so I went back into f6 again, and he checked me again. Come back out again to g5. I needed to get some moves in because we're both getting a little bit low on time. Then he checked me again on g8. And I decided that the plan would be to move away from the pawn. And if he goes after that pawn to rook, I can play the rook to a6. So he moved his king not to h7 because the rook takes pawn check. So he's trying to get me to take the pawn so that after rook takes f7, he's got f1 check. If I go rook takes pawn on f7, he can play rook f1 check and pick up my rook. So I played rook a6, king h7, rook to b6, rook a8, a6, king back to h8, and now this is where it gets interesting, because it's a one game for me now. I can just race across with my king in front of that rook and push the pawn on. He'll have to give up his rook for the pawn. So Dave could have resigned here, but he carried on a little bit longer. He played rook e1 check, king d5, then rook across to f8 because I would queen. So I've gone king to c5, and this is helping me because now he's playing rook to f5. I can just go up with the king, and he realises no more checks. And at this stage, Dave resigned. And what was a good game, because for a long time it was evens, and I managed to get that pawn up at the right time and nurse that pawn up to the 6th rank to a6 while I was covering the other. When you have two pawns racing up both flanks, it's a lot for the black player to deal with in that situation. His king's got to be covering one of them, the rook's got to be covering the other, and he can never really win any of them if there's a rook in between guarding them. It's just about getting your king over in front of one of them where you can queen. If I went the other way, I can't get my king off of that h file, because if he gets behind with a rook with a check every time I try to come out with the king. So he did have that guarded, but he couldn't protect the a pawn side, the queen side of the board. So there we are. That's a win against DaveTipper. A game I enjoyed very much. I always enjoyed playing Dave. Nice guy, really great guy. I really like him. We get on well, and we've been good friends for some years now. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this game. Hopefully it was instructive and more so enjoyable. Thank you very much. I'll be seeing you very soon with another game. Bye.